Today, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind, getting high. I'm talking about the innate human desire to climb up to high places and take in the view. The best cities will have something known as a third place, which is neither the home nor the workplace, but a public space where people can relax and socialize. Typically, these third places come in the form of cafes, bookstores, city squares, or parks. But one type of third place that's easy to forget is the high place. Somewhere that we can climb up to get a better vantage point for people watching, surveying our surroundings, or clearing our heads. I think everyone does this. Think back to your last vacation. Did you include a scenic lookout on your itinerary? Clearly, we like to climb things and the instinct is strong. Evolutionarily speaking, those of our ancestors who were able to climb high could survey the land for water, food, shelter, and identify incoming threats like animals or unfriendly tribes. And logistics-wise, high places provide a strategic advantage for military purposes. This much has been known for centuries. It's why most castles are built on high places. But even though we no longer need to survey the land for food or enemies, as humans, we still have the urge to get higher. Because we're Earth people and the skies have always been a mystery, so perhaps it's part spiritual. Mountains hold meaning in a lot of different cultures, from the Greek gods who graced Mount Olympus to Moses who received the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. There are so many other sacred mountains from other cultures too. Building taller was a way to get closer to the divine and show devotion, and humans have always been fascinated with building taller and taller structures throughout history. All around the world, these are the results. From the pyramids of Giza to the minarets in Turkey, these landmarks often become icons of their respective regions and attract tourists from all over the world. These are the new 7 wonders of the world. Notice something they all have in common? Even small towns have landmarks, like the church towers in Europe. Great cities will have hundreds of high places. Today, high places serve 2 complementary purposes. First, they help us orient ourselves when we're on the ground. From the street, they create memorable sightlines that are unique to a city. And if we're not directly in line with the building, they still give us a place that we can see from far away to align ourselves. I don't need a map in Florence, for example, because all I have to do is look for the Duomo to know which way to walk. And Disneyland uses the same principle. Second, high places are important too as places that we can look down from. We climb to great heights to get good views, assess the scale and scope of our surroundings, and people watch. One of my favorite activities is catching a good sunrise or sunset view. My favorite high places have all been part of the natural landscape, places built on existing hills and mountains. The best part about all of these locations is that they're truly third places that I can walk to and chill. They're free, they're public. Find a step to sit on or plop a squat in the grass to take in the view. Of course, you can build high places too. Rooftops or observatories of high buildings can do the trick quite nicely. These places can be great for enhancing the city by creating landmarks and beautiful views. Even in low-rise areas, it's nice to see the occasional variation in height that comes from special buildings. They make each city unique and identifiable, and although high places may not be an integral part of what makes a city function well, they are pretty key to the identity and branding of a city. The operative keyword being occasional, because we don't mind tall things as long as they're deserving. Buildings where the overall form matches and expresses the values of the city. It's been said that you need only look at the tallest buildings in a city to figure out what that city values. But when an entire city is tall, we just feel small on the ground and disconnected in our buildings. skylines start to look the same, and landmarks lose power. You can only really have a viewpoint by building something taller. And of course, no one reasonable is going to be climbing the Rockefeller Center. Elevators and lifts certainly help to make these high places accessible, but when you work for the view, there's something rewarding about the physical act of climbing. The feeling of reaching a goal and having a view to prove it. It's why people hike and people rock climb, even though they know the rule, what goes up must come down. If you just take an elevator or a lift, it feels more like a ride, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if we want to create successful third places, the problem is that from extreme heights, we have a cool vantage point, but we're removed from the action. On the other hand, open spaces like this provide both a view and some action. But if there's only a view, people won't stay for very long. To make sure that high places have both a view and are active spaces, elevated places should ideally be within easy reach of pedestrians and accessible from below. We will naturally gravitate toward these high places in public spaces. But whether it's the top of a skyscraper or the peak of a hill, it's true that something draws us to heights. Maybe something draws us to the tops of hills and buildings because there used to be an evolutionary advantage to being on the high ground. Maybe high places help us to embrace our spirituality or help us feel more productive because we can create a goal and reach it. Or maybe it's just because watching a sunset is beautiful and people like beauty. From the urban perspective, high places make a city unique and identifiable, which is why we should be particularly careful about having too many high places. I seek out high places in almost every city I visit, and I'm sure you do too. So what are some of your favorite high places, and what about them makes them so great?